November 30th, 1998, and wanted to make a tape of my parents talking about their lives, what it was like growing up, and so I guess we'll start with you, Dad, if you want to talk about
Well,
kind of your life.
I'm going to start off with a little background that my dad came to this country in 1906 from Turin, Italy, Laini, which is a suburb of Turin, and he batched and traveled around the West until 1915, and he sent for my mother, and she came to this country, and they were living in Weaver, Illinois, which disappeared.
Well, they weren't married though, right?
They got married in 1916, and
Well, when you say he sent for her, I mean, did he even know her?
he knew her through her brother. He worked with her brother, which was Kevy's dad. Kevy and Bosco's dad, or my uncle. And anyhow, my sister Josephine and Robert, were both born in Weaver. And then in 1918, they moved to Bunnell. And, oh, wait a minute, it had to be after 1918. Bob was born in, well, that's right, he was born in 17. And me and Joe was next, and I was the youngest. We were born on 8th Street in Bunnell, about a block from where you knew where we lived, on a little farm there, 5 acres of farm, and we rented 5. And we moved there in 1923, or the end of 22 or something. I was just a little baby. I was just born. And we moved in that new house, and my dad had a big barn built there, and we had cows. We started off with 2 cows, and we always had chickens, and everything. But my dad had borrowed the money from my 2 uncles and 1 cousin that lived in Bunnell. He didn't go to the bank at that time. And by 1929, when the crash came, he had the house paid off. Of course, the mines barely worked at that time. In the summertime, they hardly worked at all. But we were fortunate that we had chickens and cows, and we had plenty of milk and butter and cheese and eggs. We ate a lot of eggs. And
How much did the house cost about in those days?
probably a few $1,000s. Most.
Did you have any electricity or indoor water or plumbing or anything?
There was no indoor. We had a well. My dad had a well dug in front of the house. It was just I'd say no more than 15 feet from the door, and they hit water at 18 feet, and it was a spring. They had to stop because the water was coming in so fast, and that's all we had was drinking water and for the cows, and it was really good water. In fact, when I left Bunnell, I couldn't drink the water because I was so used to that well water, and we had no electricity until I was in about the 3rd or 4th grade. And my dad had to pay for the telephone poles and the wires to bring it out to our house, which was a little over a block from the main road. And as a kid growing up, my early years, like I say, I was the youngest, and I remember going, after school started, I was always with my mother. She went uptown, I was with her. She dropped me off at some lady's house, either my cousin or another lady. And I'd sit there, and at that time, you didn't jump around like Anthony. You sat and you didn't move. And when she'd come back from the store, she'd pick me up and we'd go home. And we always talked Italian. And when we ate, in our early years, we all ate together, and always talked Italian at the table because my mother couldn't understand English. If we started talking English, she'd always say, "Parlo italiano, capisco," so she could understand. And it was a kind of a simple life. After I started school, you make friends. One of my first friends, I guess, was Bruno Taigo, and we used to hang around different groups, and we always played together, you know. And everything we did didn't involve money. We played marbles, we played kitty cat, we played like games like Run Sheepy Run and Hide and Go Seek. Any game we played, we made up. Hockey, everything. And anyhow, there was no money at that time to speak of. And he was in the same boat with the other kids because nobody had money.
Well, lunch, you didn't say what, if any, kind of toys that you did have. Or how many toys?
I don't remember ever having a toy. And the first thing I was able to talk my mother out of, and then my dad okayed it, everything went through my mother if we wanted something. She ran the household, she ran the money. My dad worked in the mine and took care of the cows and everything on the outside. She took care of the house. She spent 98% of her time in that house and never went home that she wasn't there. And like I say, when she'd go to the store, walk, practically, we had no refrigeration, so had to go to the store practically every day, pick up some meat for lunch, my dad's bucket or something to eat. But that's the way it was, simple.
So you were going to say the first thing that you talked your mom into, your dad into getting you?
Well, the first thing was a bicycle. By this time, my oldest brother had left home.
Golly.
And I was in about the sixth grade, I think. And I begged for that bicycle, and we used to get the catalog, Sears catalog, Montgomery Ward it was. And I seen this bicycle with a single bar, the cheapest one. And when I showed it to my dad, after my mother agreed, he said, "Well, get the good one with the two bars, you know." It was about $30-something. So I got that bicycle. Then after I got it, I had to share it with my brother. He'd ride it to school in the morning and come home with lunch. I'd run home for lunch. We lived about a mile and a half from school. And then I'd run home. Then I'd take the bicycle back. He'd walk back. And we always hung around with, like under a street light when we were young, on a corner. We'd have play games and talk, you know. And sometimes there was an empty lot there. We used to bake some potatoes on a fire or something, just to do something in the summertime. I'd spend a lot of time in the woods. I was smaller than he was, and when I got to the bottom, I jumped that ditch, and I told him about it. Well, when he went down, he couldn't jump. His skis went there, and he went that way, and it knocked him cold. He lost it. He was winded, and I didn't know what to do. And one a fellow that lived in the house back there, he was, that was the way he used to go to town. He'd come over and help, and he got him survive. He got his wind back, and he was all right. The next big thing I got when I was in the 8th grade, I guess, was a pair of ice skates for $1. You clamped them on your shoe. I had to beg for them. My mother didn't want me to buy them because a fella that lived about a block from us, or a block and a half on 8th Street, drowned in number 1 pond years before that. And she always remembered that. She didn't want me to be on ice. But I finally got him, and I skated on number 1 pond. And I told you about the time that this older fellow, a friend of Bob's, his name was Nick Agnish, he had shoe skates, and he'd come out there, we're playing hockey, and he hit the puck, and it went way out towards the middle of the pond, and he wanted us kids to go get it, and we weren't about to. So he said, okay, I'll get it. He skated out there, and he got right where the puck was, and down he went. And hell, we were not about to go try to save him because we'd have went in, and he tried to get on the ice, and he'd break. Down he'd go. He kept breaking. Meanwhile, somebody ran up to George Bray's house, which was about a block up the hill, and they come down. Finally, he was able to pull himself out of that ice. He kept breaking until he got solid enough where he got up, and he was shaking like a leaf. And George Bray took off his shoe skates, and he walked barefooted. They put some coat on him or something. They walked up to his house. But that was as close as I'd ever seen. I thought he was gone. And we used to slide down a creek, and there was ice. This was during the Christmas holiday, and there was ice and snow, and we went out in the woods, and this creek, we'd run and slide, and I was ahead of everybody, and I run and slid, and there was a deep hole. The creek was only about this deep, but this was about up to here, and down I went. I stood still, I could hear it cracking, and I thought, I won't move. And as soon as I tried to move, down I went. And they lit a fire. I'd have been better off if I'd have ran home. They lit a fire and took all my clothes off, and then they put a couple of jackets on me, and they're holding all my clothes on close to the fire. They burned my coat, and then they thought they had them dry, but I put them on, and when I got home, the only thing was moving was this, where my knee was moving, everything was solid. And it was another, the water had been deeper, I probably wouldn't have made it either, because I went in about up to here.
Were you able to pull yourself out of it?
Yeah, of course, I was only from here to there to shore, you know, where he was way out in the pond. And later on, as we got older, we hung around Zarst corner. At the beginning, there was no tavern there because beer hadn't come back, but that's where our hangout was. And, we called it the East Side Gang. There was 2 levels: the older guys like Bob and that, and then us younger guys. And we'd always meet there and go different places. And like I told you, when I was in the 6th grade, the neighbor up the street from us had a milk rot that they delivered with a horse and buggy. And the fella that used to do that was a neighbor of hers, and he quit because he was in high school. And so she couldn't find nobody. She come down, and she was a friend of my mother, and talked my mother was making me take that job. And so every morning before 6 o'clock, I had to get up, walk down, I get a good 2 blocks or better up the road, and pick up the horse and buggy and deliver milk. And this horse was trained. He used to belong to the cooperative, a delivery horse, and he knew every stop. And as soon as I put the bottles in, I'd run around and put my foot on a hub and pull myself in, because if I missed, I'd have to run all the way down to the next stop. He wouldn't wait.
How many houses did you have to deliver to about?
Oh, I don't know, maybe 15 or 20. And That was in the morning. At night, same thing. About 5:30, I had to go over, hit the horse again, and it was a longer route. And I would make that route. And in the summertime, I always had somebody want to come with me, for the ride. And I remember one time Richie Czar wanted to come. He was just a young kid. Well, I was young, and he was even younger than me. He wanted to come, and I said, "You wait right there, don't touch the buggy." And I said, "Oh, the horse will go." I was at George Sedlock's house, and the next one was Jasper Tomarello, which was about a block and a half away. So I went in, I had to go in the back to bring the milk, and when I come out, the horse was gone, and he was laying in the ditch. He got run over by the wagon, but it wasn't that heavy. He tried to get on, and the horse took off. As soon as you shake that a little bit, he knew to go. And
How many years did you do that for?
I did it for at least 2 years, maybe a little long. And she started me off for 7 days a week, 2 times. The evening shift was over an hour, and the morning shift was about an hour. And 55 cents a week. And I was able to go to 2, maybe 3 shows and save a couple dimes.
So you got to keep that money yourself then?
Oh, yeah. I did good. And in the wintertime, and it used to get cold, I'd come over in the morning, and she'd have a poker in the stove. It'd be red hot, and she'd pour out a glass of wine, and she'd put that poker in there to burn the alcohol out, and then she'd make you drink this to keep you warm. And she had an imitation fur old coat that she'd throw on my lap, because when I'd come back, that horse would have icicles sticking down from his nose about 6 to 8 inches long. I mean, that was child labor deluxe.
Didn't you also have to milk cows then too?
No, I didn't. Well, I started milking cow when I was in the 3rd grade. At that time, my 2 brothers were milking, and I wanted to get in on the act. So in the evening, I'd milk 1 cow, just in the evening. And my brother Bob milked in the morning, and Joe milked at night, so I used to help him. But after I got the milk rot, I didn't have to milk. But then after, when I quit, then I had to start milking again. Then that summer, my brother graduated from high school, and so therefore I had to do the night shift, and my brother Joe did the day shift and the morning shift. So he got to play football and basketball and track. But when I got in high school, I tried to go out for football my freshman year. He was a junior, and he was on a team, especially in basketball. And so I didn't get to play basketball because you had to practice till it got dark, and the cows would lay down. So I never played basketball. I only played football. And I lettered in it as a junior and a senior. And senior year of football, we won the conference both year. As a junior, we lost 1 conference game and went to Normandy. The second year, we won all our conference game and lost to Normandy, and they were city champs.
St. Louis.
Yeah, St. Louis. And I ended up getting a lot of scholarships. I made, in one of the Chicago papers, they had about 3 papers, I forget which one it was. I made 2nd team, all state, and that's when there was only 1 division. They didn't have A's and B's and all the way. In other words, if you played football, you had to compete with all the schools. And I made honorable mention on another paper. But I made all Central Illinois also. That was by the Springfield paper. They took in 9 big conferences that started above Springfield and went all the way south of us, all the way down the southern part of Illinois.
Wow.
So
talk about what position you played.
Well, I played tackle.
If you played both offense and defense in
I played
those
offense
days.
and defense, and I played almost every game without getting hurt or getting substituted, because we didn't have, that's why we lost to Normandy. We were tied 7-7 going in the last quarter, but they kept substituting a whole team at a time. And it just wore out, and had guys getting hurt. And after we went about 3 deep in the substitution at that time, you didn't have nobody that had any playing time. And they beat us in the last quarter. They made 2 touchdowns in the last quarter and beat us. And I was one, I don't know if anybody else, but I was only one of the guys that played the whole game. In fact, I played the whole game, except the last game we played Carlinville. And if they'd have beat us, it would have been a tie for the conference. And we beat them 45-0. And it was a real cold day, and they come out with gloves on, so they couldn't tackle. And so we were leading by a lot and a half, so the chief, our coach, said, I'm going to take these guys out and let some of the other guys get to play. So right after the half started, about half the quarter, the third quarter, he took us all out, the seniors, and let the other guys. And so we agreed to that, except we didn't want them to score. And we said, if they get close to the goal line, we want to go in. He agreed to that. So they got down to the, I don't know, 2 or 3 yard line. We all ran in. And after it was 4th down, they were 20-something yards back. We pushed them back that far. And then he wanted to take us out again, and we wouldn't come out. I told the guys, don't go out. So we told the referee we didn't want no more substitution. We played the rest of the game. And that was the only game I carried the ball one time. We made another touchdown, and I said, let me try one. And I tried to go through the line, but I didn't get across the line. I made about 1.5 yards and didn't put the ball over. But that's one time I carried the ball. And
you played track later on too, right?
yes, I played track.
Not later on, but I mean, some of the
My
time.
junior and senior year, I had the county record for the discus at 148 feet. And I won every meet I went to, but the longer I threw, the worse I got as far as my form, because I wasn't practicing enough. Beginning I was practicing, but and the day I threw 148 feet, I actually threw one farther than that. You know how a guy stands out there to mark it? It went way over his head. And my oldest brother Bob was there, because that's the year he had that accident. And Bruno Tigo was there, and they seen where it went, and he marked it about 15 feet from where it landed. And we tried to tell him that it wasn't farther than that, but they wouldn't believe us. So I also ran to 220 at that time, so I had to stop to run to 220. And we went to 220, and I come back, and that's when I threw the second time, and it went 148 feet some inches. And that was my best throw for the year. But actually, that other throw was way up in the 50s, but it didn't count. And
Well, go ahead.
our summers, it was always like make hay. We had about 4 acres that we would plant in hay for the cows. We'd have Leone cut it, and then we'd turn it over by hand, and rake it by hand. Then Leone would come over with his horses and hay rack, and we'd load it up. And that's the only time my mother would come out and work outside the house, except when they were canning or something. And my dad grew a big garden, and we did a lot of canning. My mother would do a lot of canning, usually on the tub. And also, I forgot to mention, we never had a bathroom, so you took a bath in a #2 tub on Saturday. Heated the water up on the stove and put it in there, and sat in the tub and washed yourself. Until I got in high school, and then we used to go down to mine, shower at the mine.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Just once a week?
Well, if you was playing football or anything, you know, basketball or.
Oh, this high school didn't have shower room or anything?
Yeah, the high school did, but.
Oh, so that means you're
Yeah,
saying
you only took a bath once a week when you were a kid like that. In a tub. You'd wash yourself off with a rag, you know, and that. Like if you was barefooted, we'd have to wash our feet and clean ourselves up. But we didn't get in the tub every.
What were some of the home remedies that your mother used when you got sick or had
We had.
injuries?
My mother had a home remedy for everything. And vinegar was our mainstay for, if you got a cut, you put vinegar on it.
Did that sting like that?
Oh, yes, it stung, but we had nothing else. And she had a couple of like the Caramia, and then she had another thing they used to put alcohol in, and it looked like cucumbers in there. And it was actually whiskey. Sometimes you get that for a stomach ache. And I'll bring this story out. I've told you that my dad was building a rapid shed, which was about 4 foot high and about 6 foot wide, maybe 4.5, 6 foot wide, and maybe 12 foot long. And he was building it out of all old lumber that he had. And I was just a young kid, and I was not helping him. I was just playing around there. And when he had the roof on, I got up on the roof, which was only, like I say, a little over 4 foot maybe. And I jumped off, and there was a 2x4 with a rusty nail sticking up. And it went damn near went through my foot. When I started to run, it came with me. And so we took it off. My dad pulled it off, and then went in the house. My mother washed it up, and immediately put fresh cow manure on it, and wrapped it with a towel. And when it would get cold, she'd send my brother Joe back to the barn and get another one. And I always remember my foot got puffed up like this, and it was real soft. You could push your hand. It never hurt though. Push your hand in there.
How old were you when that happened?
I was probably about 7 or 8.
How long did you have to keep the commoner on there for, like a
About
few
4 or
hours?
5.
Or?
I kept it on all day, and about 3 or 4 days, and then it healed up. I think it was penicillin in there or something. But you know, after I got into the Navy, I got a cut here one time, and I had just taken a tetanus shot. He made me take another one. Anytime you got blood, you got a tetanus shot. So anyhow, getting back to some of the things we did.
And what was that one other story though about some girl got hurt or something, and they needed you to help them?
Oh yeah, well, that was Rena Franconi.